Today we are going to weave a rush frame with fiber rush, the frame having no corners. The first thing we want to do is take a good look at the seat so we can duplicate the same pattern and method. If you only have one, you're going to want to take digital pictures of the front, the corners, and the bottom so that you can do it the same way. Notice the method they use to wrap the corners. We are going to duplicate that method. The first thing you're going to want to do is take out the old seat. Just cut it with a razor knife along the edges. And then you can easily remove the seat. Here you can see the entire seat is loosened, and it will easily come out now. Take a careful look at the top side to see how they attached the first strands to square off the front. You will be duplicating that. Once all the rush is removed, you will want to clean the frame off and check it for any damage, anything that needs to be glued or repaired. It's helpful if you just write the word top where you know the top is, because later on, after you've flipped the frame around a few times and lost track, it helps a lot. The first thing you want to do is measure the back. We have 10 5/8 inches, and measure the front. We have a little bit over 12 inches, 12 1/4. So what you want to do is subtract the back measurement from the front measurement, divide it by 2, comes up to 3/4 inch, and put a pencil mark at 3/4 inch on each side. The distance between those two pencil marks should be the same distance as your back, 10 5/8. You want to get yourself a coil of rush to work with. I recommend using masking tape to tape the end of the coil to itself. That works very well in keeping it from tangling as you're weaving. Then you want to get enough in your hand that's comfortable for you to work with. You want to soak the rush for a few minutes. 2 or 3 minutes is all. After 2 or 3 minutes, take out the rush, and you're going to want to shake off the excess water. The reason you want it wet like this is it makes the material softer and more pliable and easier to make your corners. If you soak it too long, it will disintegrate and you can pull it apart. You want to start your chair putting the first strand of rush right on the edge of this edge right here, and you want to attach it here. There's 3 ways you can attach it. I'm going to use all 3 methods just to show you your options. I prefer to use an air staple gun, faster and quicker. I'm done. You may prefer to use a staple gun. Does the same thing. If you don't have any of those tools, you may want to use a carpet tack. All 3 will do the same thing. You do not need 3. You just need 1 to start it. Once it's started, you want to pull the rush tight, keeping it right on the edge. Turn it over, and you're going to make a right angle here, so you need to attach it right here with either your tack or your staples. Turn your corner and go across, and you don't want it to be looking like that. You want it to be tight to the edge, laying on top of that one, going all the way across to this side, staying as close to the edge as you can. Flip it over and again attach it on the bottom. Turn and go up And you can kind of see where the previous person attached it. Somewhere in that area is fine. And you want to cut off your excess. Now we're going to do it again because we have not gotten up to our line yet. And at this point you want to kind of work this corner to keep the rush together. You don't want it looking like that or that. You want it as close together as you can get it. The bottom is not so critical how it looks. Now that the front has filled in to the black lines that we've made, you're ready to start doing the whole chair. So you're going to add one more piece. Right there. And you want to always be working your corners. This gap you do not want there. You're going to push that piece up, push it all down, push that together so that those are as tight together as possible right now. It's very hard to come back later and fix that. We're still attaching it on the bottom. The same exact method as the first 3 strands we did. Now, instead of ending here, we're going to go to the back. So you're going to go straight across, right on that edge. And I'm always pulling the rush tight. You never want to have a loose piece of rush. It's always pulled tight. Use the same method in the back as you did in the front. You don't want things like that. You want it to be right on the edge, perfect location as you work. Now you're going to come back to the front, and because you're not stapling it anymore, we're going to use a clamp. You want to use a clamp to hold the tension on your rush. And you see we've got a gap right there. As I mentioned, you want to keep those gaps closed. Now we still have to go around the bottom a couple more times. Now you can take the clamp off because that staple is holding the tension. You're going to go across. I push down on it to make sure things are as close together as possible right there. The same thing over here. I'm pushing this down, making sure it's going to look as tight as possible. Sometimes the staples don't go all the way in. Simply tap them down. And you're going to continue around the back. Always working the corners, always manipulating. Okay, we are finished stapling on the bottom for the front portion. So now we're going to start pulling the entire coil through, lay it over on the left-hand rail, pull it back through the middle, lay it over the right hand rail, pull it back through the middle, over the front, and pull it through again. And then we're going to tighten it up. Notice the clamp is holding the tension while we did that. Release the clamp, hold the tension with your fingers, and now we're going to come over the top instead of wrapping underneath like we were doing. I'm going to turn it around so we can work this corner. We want to push this down as much as you possibly can and pull real tight on that, and that makes it lay flat. It was up in the air. You're going to take the tension, pull it across to the other side, pushing it down with your thumb, go underneath and come up and then pull real tight, and that will make that side lay down. And I'm going to put the clamp on to hold that tension right there. Now the back is not ready to be woven this way yet. We still have to go underneath because the corner is in our way. So I'm going to hold the tension here, remove the clamp, and continue to do the bottom with staples. And as I'm weaving, I'm continually pulling the rush as tight as I possibly can. That makes for a nice tight seat when you're finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and weave a few more strands until the back is ready to be woven as the front. As you're weaving, it's very important that you keep the strands parallel and not let them start to wander in like they tend to want to do. This edge needs to be tapped back. So I use a wooden wedge and a hammer, and I hit it until that line is parallel with that edge. And you want to do that all the way around. And sometimes you want to hit your rush with your hammer a little bit. And in the back, I can see that that one needs to be pushed over. The rule of thumb that I go by is every 4 strands that I weave, I'll take the hammer and wedge and make sure they're all straight. Now some people I've seen go to the further extreme and pound them too far to where they're sloped in this way. You don't want them that way and you don't want them this way. You want them parallel. As much as you can through the entire chair, through the whole weaving process. I have the back finished now, stapling underneath. We're ready to weave the entire frame, the normal process of weaving a rush chair. So the pattern you repeat over and over is up through the middle, over the left rail, up through the middle, over the right rail, up through the middle, over the front rail, up through the middle, over the back rail, up through the middle, over the right rail, up through the middle, over the left rail, up through the middle, over the back rail, up through the rail, and set the coil down. Then I want to take the clamp, hold the tension with my fingers, and start weaving that I just laid out, keeping everything straight and square as much as I possibly can. And you can see how it's starting to cover the pieces that were underneath there, and it's not making any kind of a hump because these pieces are also included in that. I always work these corners right as I'm going by to make them look as good and close as possible. Never releasing the tension on the rush, holding it top or bottom. Now this is up in the air, so again I'm going to push it down as much as I can, hold it in place, and then this strand right here is going to really pull it down and hold it. And you want to make sure you get that looking as good as you can there. And same thing on this side. I'm going to pull it out to the front, Put a clamp on to hold the tension. Now we are weaving normal pattern chair. Remember, every 4 strands to take your wedge and hammer and make sure things are straight. You could do it even more often if you're having trouble with it. Here is the frame as we've continued weaving the standard pattern. It is now ready to have cardboard triangles added as filler to fill the void so the seat won't sag over the years. It's handy if you have a box of triangles already pre-cut, especially if you're a professional weaver, but any cardboard box cut into triangles will work. So we're going to take some triangles and we're going to insert them there and there. And you might have to put 2 or 3 in there. You don't want it to make it overstuffed looking. You want to make it perfectly level looking. If you have cardboard that has marks and bad spots, you want to make sure those are facing down, not up, because you will tend to see that through the cracks that inevitably happen. So you're going to do all 4 sides. This particular chair is very thin, so it doesn't need a lot of padding. Some chairs have a thick rail and will take 3 to 4 pieces of cardboard. You want to do the top and the bottom. Sometimes on the bottom you can get more pieces in. You want to fill it so it's full but not over full. And now you're ready to add another piece of rush to keep weaving. You see it's ended right here. Here's the start of my new coil. It's damp. I soaked it in the water. This piece has dried out a little bit, but that's okay. You want to tie it so your knot is right in the middle. You don't want it close to the edge because it'll hinder your operations. So I'm going to put a knot, make a square knot. And you want to pull it as tight as you can and have it be near the middle. And then you cut off the excess tails and you're ready to keep weaving. This is the top front. So I'm going to take my coil, bring it up through the middle, same pattern over the front. It can get confusing. If you can only do a couple of rails at a time, that's fine. I prefer to do as many as I can, which is 4 times all the way around. And then you want to tighten it up. So I remove the clamp and pull this tight, making sure that this knot is not going to be any kind of a bother later on. And snug it up all the way around. As you can see, each time I get to an outer rail, I always snug it, pull it, and that pulls this piece in tight and has it lay up against its strand next to it very nicely. And then I'm ready to do the same process again. And basically with a knot, you don't want to have something sticking up. You just want to kind of keep it tucked down because these strands are going to lay right over top of it and cover it up completely. Now the seat is almost completed. We're ready to add another strand. As you can see, there's no room in the middle for a full coil to go through anymore. So we're going to take the end of a new piece and we're going to push it down through there, turn it over, and we have to attach it to this piece. There's a couple different ways we can do it. One is we can tie a knot and have it be right up there in the middle. Another way is to come up here and put a staple in, cut it off, lay the new strand and put a staple in and keep going. So that is the method I'm going to use here. I'm going to staple the old one. I'm going to attach the old strand with the staple right there. Then I'm going to cut it off just past that. Take the new strand, bring it right up next to it, and attach that. Now it's a nice, tight, secure fitting. You may want to put more than one staple if you don't feel that it's going to hold securely. Now I'm going to bring it up through here. You can see I have room for one more strand after this strand. I have to clamp it so that I can bring the end of the rush up through the hole. Bring it up through the hole. Got to make sure there's no knots. Doesn't matter if it rides up on the bottom. And then you're going to do the same pattern you've been doing through the whole weaving process. And you may want to use your wedge to make sure you're leaving room to get one more strand in there. Now you'll see there's no room to get another strand through there. You can take a caning peg and a hammer and pound it in there and make room for the strand to come through. And you'll be using that caning peg every time now to make room for another. You can see how it kind of twists up on the bottom. You need to watch for that and make sure it goes through good. And I'm watching as I'm weaving for things like that gap showing up. You want to try to close them up as much as you can. Use the peg each time. Now we have room for one more strand on each side. Now we're ready to lay the last strand in. You can use your wedge to open it up a little bit where you need to. Lay that strand in. If you have kept all your strands parallel as you go through, you're going to find just enough room to lay one strand in there. And you'll see this side is done. Now we're going to lay the strand in on the other side. And as you can see, it fits right in there just nicely. Now all we have left is to finish the front and the back. If your rush is damp, it makes it a lot easier to make room in the center than to deal with stiff rush. Okay, we're on our last strand. It's going to lay right in here. Going to fill that gap up just nicely. And then we are ready to tie it off. So I'm going to clamp it. A couple different methods you can use for tying it off. You could staple it right there, which I will do. And I will also tie it off to show you how that method would work. We don't need the whole piece, so I'm going to cut it off. Give a couple feet there. I'm going to go over here, separate the strands so that I can put this underneath there and pull it through. And then I'm going to pull it tight and pull it back. Lift the same strand, the one we stapled, go underneath that, and then go through the loop, and that's going to form my knot. And you want that knot as tight as possible underneath there. Now it's tied. You don't need to do both. I just did both for example. You could have done that one and cut it off and tucked your tail. I'm going to cut this off. You don't want the tail hanging down on your chair, so I'm going to tuck that underneath. Use the wedge to make room. This is the completed underneath side of the seat. There's the completed top, and your project is complete.